Ruslan.
Lil Nas X, Nike suing Mischief.
Suing Mischief.
But are they suing Lil Nas X too? Because in your video you said they didn't say his name often.
No, they're not suing him. He's not a named defendant, which is the funniest thing because he's not a named defendant. He basically is just trolling everyone because I use like some of his like little funny like gifs and memes and videos of him being like, oh my God, this Nike loss is gonna make me broke. He's not being sued. And they have minimized, he's mentioned once in 24 pages. And I think because they're like, oh my gosh, he's getting a reaction out of people for a good reason on his end. And so I think that they are trying to minimize that. And they're like, okay, we're just not gonna mention him and then maybe he'll like let this go. And he's clearly not letting it go. So he's like having his field day.
Why are they not suing him? If they're saying there's immense brand damage, folks thought this was a real Nike thing. There was multiple verified people saying, I don't even know if I'm going to rock with Nike anymore. Why not?
The basketball players.
Yeah, the basketball player. Why not go after him as well? I'm curious.
Yeah, so I am, where did I put the lawsuit? So my basic idea as to like why he's not a named defendant is to be honest, which I find very interesting. Usually senior partners are older men. I think the younger partners in the firm and even like the younger associates had to explain what troll culture is. My brother had to explain this to me when I got on YouTube and I was like, there are people here, like what's happening? He's like, Stephanie, the internet always wins, you have to ignore them. I think they had to explain to the senior partners like, hey, troll culture is basically Mischief is kind of a troll, a high-end troll as well. The more you feed into these people, you're giving them free press, and they are just loving it. As we have seen, like Lil Nas X, like will likely be a whole MBA case study, like in the Masters of Business Association programs on marketing. Like he's getting so much more play now because people like, either they're super upset or they're loving it. Like people don't seem to have an in-between. So the people that are super upset, they're resharing, they're resharing, they're resharing. They named him as a defendant. They would never hear the end of day with this because he would reshare every time there's a motion, every time that there's a hearing. Even if the hearing was for 10 minutes, he would reshare the hearing and be like, guess what happened today in court? So I think that's why they're not naming him, which is good on their end, but also them even suing has already lit the match. Like he's not letting it go. Like he had like the little Squidward thing that I showed on mine, like him joking.
So I think, and people were mad at me about this, I think that the hysteria, the outrage is exactly what he wanted. People bought into it. And it was the same stuff Marilyn Manson did in the 90s, the same stuff Ozzy Osbourne, and these guys have been doing. It's just a different face and a different archetype attached to this tactic. So I was like, hey, like I don't like you, like why are we even talking about this? Like you guys are this church services are showing the shoe.
He posted a few. Yeah,
it is so to me it was so ridiculous, and I had a lot of Christians mad at me like, well, you know, you just don't understand, and da-da-da. But here's what here's what I think is interesting is even in you describing the shoe, you seemed like uncomfortable with the idea of the shoe.
Yeah.
Talk about that because I think that's a very interesting dichotomy where I was just kind of like, guys, it's like this is what he wants, but even you like objectively looking at it as a lawyer, you're just like, oh, I don't know. Talk about that.
Yeah. So two parts. I think people's like hysteria is misplaced. It's also a bit hypocritical, and I think it goes to say, like, you know, as somebody who's former, you know, back in the day, like when I was young, watched VeggieTales, grew up on all of that. You know, the faith-based community has not been kind to Black gay men or gay men in general. And you know, this is what happens. Like people have demonized that lifestyle, which is not nice and not kind, and you know, not to be on my soapbox. So just wanted to put that out there. The shoe, however, which why I was very honest about the shoe as a very superstitious Caribbean person, the shoe makes me super uncomfortable, regardless about like how I feel about it or like how I feel about like my religious faith or etc. If I have one or if I don't, whatever. Which I do. The shoe to me, I wouldn't want it in my house. So like even like doing all the research for this, like the way they just describe it like so much. And I know that's the idea. The idea is the symbolism behind it is to get a rise out of people. Like even if you are an objective person who's like, oh, you know, like I don't believe anything. I do. So I'm just saying, just as an example, I don't believe in anything. People, as a westernized person, people know what Satan is. People know what Satanism is. People are afraid of it. Like I'm terrified of scary movies. So I'm just like, oh, this whole case is like creepy to me. But that's the whole point. The point is to get a rise out of anybody.
So in terms of this moving forward, does Nike win this lawsuit?
So the win is very interestingly defined in the case of this lawsuit, because what they want, so we can do backwards to forwards, Nike wants this to go away. So basically in their prayer for relief, so I have it pulled up. So prayer for relief is like, what do I need? It's interesting that it's titled prayer for relief, which
like prayer, like prayer.
It's literally titled prayer for relief in all lawsuits. You'll see it. So their prayer for relief stayed.
It's more or less like a cease and desist, right? Like they want the shoes to not be out there.
Basically. So if you like ever look at the lawsuits on page 20, so they're like, these are all the things we want. Basically, they want stop of manufacturing, transporting, promoting, advertising, publicizing, distributing, offering for sale, selling any products, etc., etc., etc. They don't want anyone to talk about it. So a win for them is like all of a sudden, all of our minds are zapped and we all forgot this happened. That can't happen, obviously. And Mischief has already sold them. According to them, they sold out. They already started shipping them. I've seen people do unboxings on YouTube, which is wild. So basically, Nike technically, if they want this all to go away, they've technically lost. A win for them, the next step, I think, is going to be like, okay, how much money am I going to sue you for? Because it's not going away.
Do you think Mischief sent everything fast on purpose because they knew this could happen?
I think they did. So from there is, I quoted her, I think her last name is Roberts, Professor Roberts from University of New Hampshire Law School. And she has been tracking whether or not things have actually been shipped or if they actually sold out all of that amount of shoes. And again, I don't even want to say the number because the superstition to me is like, oh, it makes me uncomfortable, which is an interesting point. I don't think that they've shipped all of them, but they've shipped some, which already would be in violation of Nike's trademark rights, which is what Nike is alleging. Like, hey, they're suing for two things: the word name, even using the word Nike, and then the swoosh. Those are the two trademarks. They're like, hey, you're using them. The swoosh is on all the shoes, and you keep saying Nike Air Max 97, 95, whichever number it is, on these things. So I think Mischief shipped things out for the promo and the shock value because, again, they're like basically a troll atelier, and I think they're getting that. But it's interesting looking into them, a little bit of research. They do this all the time, what I basically call forced collaborations. Like they did this with Birkin and Birkenstocks, where they don't ask anyone's permission. They just do it, and then no one has sued them, which is interesting.
Well, they did the Jesus holy water shoes.
They did the Jesus shoes, exactly, for Nike, and Nike didn't sue them and then. So I think their standpoint is like, yeah, we know maybe we'll get sued eventually, but like we don't care. And also their defense is going to be, oh, it's satire. You know, we're covered under satire. Like, we're just poking at it. Like, it's fine. Everyone knows it's not related to you. And then that's why Nike's pulling up receipts of like, nope, these X amount of people are confused. And confusion is one of the things you have to show in trademark cases. Yes.
You think Nike loses? You think it's a loss either way?
I think it's for them, it's a loss because it's already happened. But if we're talking about like how people always say all press is good press, I mean, this is shifting the conversation in which people were having last week about their current working conditions in China. So now like people are talking about that. They're talking about the shoe. So like maybe this is better for them, alleged working conditions. So, you know, maybe like the hoopla is better for them from that standpoint. The internet is one of those things where something is like a huge deal and then by the next week it's not. So their hearing isn't scheduled till June. Will any of us care about this in June?
Probably not.
I don't think so.
So you guys subscribe to our channel. Thank you so much. Hopefully I could have you back on. This was super dope, and I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Joshua the King came down and bore it all. Yeah. Conversations front of the fireplace. All of my mistakes, how do I erase? Wanna operate at a higher pace. Birth pains causing the body to dilate. On a first name basis with the worst pain.